All right, so the class timing was 2:30, right? Sorry for this inordinate delay. वैसे भी there's a line in Urdu that says कुछ तो रही होगी वजह मजबूरी वरना कोई यूं ही बेवफा नहीं होता. There must be some reason for it. All right. So, anything to ask from what we did? So, quickly. Introduction. Interactionalist perspectives. All right. We have not talked much about it. Interactionalists are those who believe that the subject matter of sociology should be the way we interact, because we don't interact in the exact identical way all the time. You know, it depends on set of roles, set of objectives, set of expectations, and what are those factors which are determining these interactional processes. That is more important. So they highlight that instead of looking at the big picture all the time, we should be looking at individual behavior more. That how they interact, what guides those interaction, what are those factors because of which it may change, and all these kind of things. So in that we got one major name in your syllabus also, and that is George Herbert Mead. He was the one who highlighted that end of the day, it is the interaction which matters. Fine. So we'll talk about it, don't worry. When we talk about what is the role of George Herbert Mead, it is in his syllabus, because George Herbert Mead highlighted, that's why I said this scope of the subject in the evolutionary process, you will enjoy it more once you have done the thinkers. Then when you're rereading it, you will understand, okay, this is how from August Comte to, you can say David X. Meglu, we have reached this far. That we have seen that how subject matter went on adding with every new thing coming up, and that's how sociology from August Comte till today has reached this far. So because the same question is here also, Utkarsh is asking, interactionalist perspective of George Herbert Mead is in full-fledged in his syllabus, where we'll understand that how we interact, with me try to understand that how the mind is shaped, how we get symbols, and with the help of symbols, how we get socialized. So what all that is something which is interactionalist perspective. It's a complete in syllabus. Sociology and economics, I told you that in the previous class we have understood that what is sociology and economics, and I told you that while sociology is scientific study of social institution processes and all, what is economics? Economics tries to understand the production, redistribution, and exchange of all those goods and services whose resources are limited. And why it is so? So that we could balance the demand and supply. Economics and sociology has been quite interrelated. In fact, right from the beginning, when Karl Marx talked about society, he was saying that economics makes the base. So Karl Marx believed to understand society, you should know what kind of economic activities are taking place there. And economic activities determine that how social institutions will be there, how they will be justified in the given society. That's why I told you that, look, the kind of economic activities that determine how the education system is going to be, that determines how political system is going to be, that determines how religious institutions are going to be. So economy makes the base, and that's why for the better understanding of society, a better understanding of economics is needed. And that was the title of his book, Das Kapital. However, Weber said just opposite of it. According to Weber, no, on the contrary, society determines at times that how economic activities are going to be. And that he did in that famous work, Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, where he highlighted that when society supported rationality, when society supported that you should work hard, when society supported acceptance of capitalism, then only capitalism grew. So this way Weber believed, in fact we'll talk about this a little more also, Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, and Weber believed that whether capitalism or economic activities will flourish or not, that depends on the social values of the society itself. So he believed society better understanding of sociology will help you to understand that why economic activities of a particular type exist. So they are just opposite of each other that way. So Marx believe economy makes the base, Weber believe no, for the economic activities justification is coming from society. And that's how you also talked about what is called social determinant of economic behavior. I also told you that even ethical dimension of economic activities, that which economic activity should be accepted, which should not be, not, that is dependent on what? The social fabric. So society determines which one is good, which should be done, which should not be done, and so and so. Then I also told you one name there, Pierre Bourdieu. Bourdieu believed that yes, the trust is something very important, social capital. So economic activities cannot be viewed in isolation. You can't see economic activities in isolation with the rest of the activities, because whatever social capital is, whatever social factors are, they determine the justification to economic activities. So when I am teaching you here is one economic activity, or I am bartender somewhere else is another economic activity. Which one is good, which one is bad, which one is justified, all that depends on kind of social capital formed, kind of social acceptance on that. So this way, Pierre Bourdieu said that no, without better understanding of society that is coming from sociology, you can't understand or you can't give justification to economic activities. To that extent, they're interdependent. So this is how we got three names. Again, there could be other names also added, but these three are the major names you should talk about. And at the same time, I also told you, because we have identified in the previous class, when we talk about sociology with other disciplines, what should be the algorithm? First, what are their respective subject matters? Second, how they're overlapping. Third, where they are not. And fourth, how they're getting interdisciplinary. So where sociology and economics differ from each other, in sociology, we are getting more, you can say, interaction, you can say interpretative, while economics is still largely positivistic. Still, economy is largely data driven. Though, of late, from last 20 years, we could see, even in economics, some aspect of interpretation has come, but still, across the globe, economics is largely data driven. So, economics is positivistic, while sociology has become more interpretative. I also told you that economics is something which is specific in its subject matter, while sociology is more generic in its subject matter. Together, they have resulted into emergence of altogether new discipline now called developmental economics, which tries to understand, because I also told you by 1970s, we have understood that ultimate objective of economics is not just the growth, but also to ensure inclusive growth. And for that, better understanding of society is needed. That's how economics and sociology has come together to make a discipline called developmental economics. And we have taken a few names, like I told you, the name of Claudia Golden, how she identified that smaller things like contraceptives could be so significant in gender empowerment. So this way, in fact, as we will move in your GS classes, you will see one indicator that is calculated by United Nations called Gender Inequality Index. That index is based on this very idea that what is reproductive health of female. And we believe that when we talk about gender empowerment, when you talk about empowerment of females, you cannot overlook this reproductive dimension. So this way now developmental economics tries to understand the correlation between the two, where we are trying to understand that how, I also told you that how, look, the writers like latest writers, so Amar Sen is talking about poverty. He also is saying that the better understanding of poverty cannot be there unless until you're having the sociological understanding. Similarly, when Abhijit Banerjee, who got Nobel Prize in economics a few years back, he also said a better understanding of society, because his research work was on that how a better understanding of society will help in better economic activities, as he experimented on health factor. So this way now we have got this clarity that economics and sociology are intersecting each other. They are slightly different though, and together they are emerging into new disciplines. So that's how we talked about sociology and economics. To have a quick recap, Previous to that, we have also understood what is scope of sociology. In the scope of sociology, I told you that initially when Auguste Comte came, he believed it should be what? It should be synthetic or macro. And there we got what is called social morphology, social physiology, and general sociology. But subsequently it was made micro, especially when Weber said, no, its subject should be what? Interpretative in the nature. And what we also call formalistic. So whether you call it formalistic, whether you call micro, whether you call synthetic, whether you call it macro, and macro follows nomethetic approach, while micro follows ideographic approach. But later on, I also told you that got clubbed into it when Merton believed that there should be theories of middle range, when we got, very importantly, Anthony Giddens. Whenever you're talking about scope, you must not miss Anthony Giddens. Anthony Giddens talks about structuration, that we should try to understand structure, right? I also told you the similar context. Andre Bethe had said that taking polarity is not good. We should synthesize the two. We have also seen that how subject has evolved from Herbert Spencer and Auguste Comte talking about only macro sociology, and then gradually we also got structural functionalism stepping in when we got Durkheim and other people, and then we got Marxist perspective coming up. Within the Marxists, we got feminist and cultural Marxism. Then we got intellectualist perspective coming up, and this way we can see that how later on we got post-structural, especially I gave it two names there. One was Michael Foucault and Derrida. So they talked about post-structural. So this way, sociology went on evolving in its scope. So whenever the question is asked about scope of the subject, it should visibly have two dimensions: how to study and what to study. How to study is more important because that determines the subject, the nature of the subject, the taste of the subject. So whenever they're asking nature of sociology, how to study, this macro and micro. When you're asking scope of the sociology, then you have to say how and what both. So this way we got, when we talk about scope and how it is dependent with or is interrelated with other subjects. In that we have done so for sociology and economics, and we have discussed in the previous class sociology and political science. To have a quick recap of that part, so I hope it's clear up to this. And I hope you are doing the previous question paper also. Once we are done with the chapter, we'll do the previous question paper here also. But then even if you're doing side by side, that will be good. So in the previous class, we also talked about how sociology and political science. Sociology and political science. If you could recall, I told you that this correlationship was way back highlighted by Herbert Spencer. Herbert Spencer, to start with, and Herbert Spencer said what? That political system or political structure determines change in societies. So how societies are changing, that is determined by the political structure. Remember? So, but I also told you that when it comes to subject matter of political science also understand what is political system, power and authority, how governance and state and such institutions work. But they are more interested in what and how of the institutions, while sociology is more interested in why of the institutions. Like I gave the example of caste politics, as Rajni Kothari calls it, vote bank politics. We know in India we have democratic values based on vote bank. So our political electoral system is largely dependent on vote bank, and that's why you can see these many retaliations in Bihar, if you're following the news. Because when Chief Election Commissioner is saying something, they are worried that this equation may change. Because recently Bihar got its caste census also, 2023, and that has definitely helped Nitish Kumarji in 2024 from being at least kingmaker, if not the king. So that's the reason why things are changing. So now they are worried, is it something going to get changed or what? Even today's Indian Express has given a very good reference that may be useful in second paper. Take a note of it, that why even the upper caste people are equally worried that the equation may get changed. And so you may not understand it as of now, but gradually will understand caste and politics. Maybe that will be more interesting then. So Rajni Kothari call it vote bank politics. That how in India, people are more, remember Emin Srinivas, he said that famous quote that you don't cast your vote, you vote your caste. That's why India has a unique structure. Naam kya hai? Sunil. Sunil kya? The next question is Sunil kya? Sunil Singh. Rajput ho? Automatically comes. And if you say, how does it matter? Answer will be Pakka Rajput nahi hai. So are you getting this, how the equations work? It is so deeply ingrained. That's why you will read, and it's not funny because, in fact, that fellow, in your second paper, you have one fellow in your syllabus, Louis Demo. Louis Demo. He was from French origin, came to India, and when studied Indian society, he said, boss, they are not Homo sapiens. They are Homo hierarchicus. That is the title of his book eventually. Homo hierarchicus. Everywhere we have hierarchy. I think he missed a bit. He passed away last to last year. I think he missed a bit. He should have called Homo politicus also. The way it goes deeply, inside us. We are Homo politicus by nature. So, vote bank politics is something so deeply ingrained, and that determines our electoral system. So political science will be interested to know that how institutions are there, how democracy works, how election take place, and we are saying why caste is so important in Indian political fabric. Why it is so important, that Amin Srinivas will help you to understand that why caste is so important, that you cannot overlook. Why it is so important. So all these kind of things, why is given by sociology, and what and how is given by political science. So you got two names. I also told you that just opposite to this idea, even if you watch carefully, as Baltimore had said that it was political philosophies that has led to change in Europe with the promotion of modernity. And that's why better political philosophies may lead to better understanding of sociology. So this way, we got at least three major names again, which are telling that how sociology and political science are correlated. But at the same time, if you see that political science is more codified, more organized, more formal. Political science is more formal or codified. Sociology by its nature is more generic or informal. The subject matter goes informal here, while in political science it goes formal, that how power, authority, quantification, and all these kind of things. This is where their approach is different. So those who study in political science, they look into these kind of things. While, in fact, there's a complete subject that's called voting behavior. Voting behavior, those who do BA in sociology, they study that, how voting behavior is governed by a lot of things. Don't you think how you are going to vote? In India, if you ask me, the biggest challenge of democracy is that people do not vote independently. Individualism is lagging. In fact, few days back, it happened in Uttar Pradesh. A reporter asked a lady, I might have quoted that, a reporter asked the lady, इस बार आप किसको वोट देंगी? So the lady answered, जिसको घरवाला कहेगा. घरवाला is husband. So the reporter asked, घरवाला क्यों बताएगा? ये तो आपका वोट है. You should vote as per your understanding, your conscience. She said, घरवाला नहीं बताएगा, तू बताएगा आके. Now, this proves, and that's why it has been said by, you might be knowing V.S. Naipaul, very rightly, that in India we have only procedural democracy. We don't have democracy in spirit. So to understand society better will help you to understand the political institutions better. That in India, if you want to have democracy, it's very important that first promote individualism. First promote those democratic ethos in the people. And this is what is now called applied branch of political science and sociology, to be called as political sociology. In political sociology, we understand role of civil societies, how civil societies work. Even so, civil societies are often considered to be linked between the state and the common man. So state and common man, they are the link, and civil societies are very important now. That's why in your role, in your second paper also, in governance, I don't know, you will be reading it subsequently. As per World Bank, Government plus civil society is equal to governance. Many of the people think government is noun and governance is verb. No, governance is also a noun, and governance is equal to government plus civil societies. जब government के साथ civil societies भी हो system में, and that's how we got role of public policy, we got role of civil societies. In fact, this topic is there in your syllabus, role of civil societies in 21st century. We have that kind of thing. Pressure groups, to a better understanding of pressure groups is part of political sociology. In fact, that's why we are studying that 7th topic: nation, state, protest, agitation, pressure groups, political parties, how they work. So sociology and political science to that extent are similar, and to that extent they are different, and they are emerging together now in the new disciplines like what you call political sociology. And even we are believing now, as I told you in the previous class also, Daron was saying ki why nations fail can be better understood by understanding society. If the institutions are not good, you know what, you might have read, वैसे भी you call Lakshmikant the holy book ना for polity. आज जाके पढ़िएगा, I think 3rd chapter, constitutionalism. 8 elements of constitutionalism are what? Social fabric. आज जाके वो इन 8 elements को दोबारा देखिएगा class, I insist. There's, when you read about constitutionalism, what are the 8 elements of constitutionalism? They are basic social thing. There should be rule of law, there should be respect of equality, and these kind of things. So better understanding of sociology is definitely going to be very instrumental in better understanding of functioning of political institutions. And that's why both the disciplines are coming closer. They are coming very closer now. And Daron kind of writers now accepting that nations survive or fail depends upon how social institutions are perceived. So sorry to say, you might have read a number of articles in your polity, but there's only one rule which prevails in India. And that is, tell me the person, I will tell you the rule. And as long as this is there, as long as there is no rule of law, your democracy or your political institutions will be for the namesake. They will not be acting to its fullest. So, wo kaise theek hoga? This is what Daron has talked about. Even Raghuram Rajan has written a book called The Fourth Pillar, where he highlighted that to understand political institutions better, better understanding of sociology is needed. So now the discipline is getting more closer than ever before, especially in terms of public policy, especially in terms of role of civil societies, in terms of role of pressure groups, and so on and so forth. Because in 21st century, we are moving towards governance. And governance is based upon people's participation, how people are participating. And people's participation can be ensured only with the help of better understanding of social institutions and their functioning. So this way, you can say political science and sociology are coming together. So I repeat, I hope we have decoded our algorithm. The first is, what is the subject matter of sociology and what is subject matter of political science. Second, how they are overlapping, where they are different, and how they are emerging into new things. So this is how sociology and political science. We can write it quickly, then we move further to the next. I hope I'm making sense to everyone. Hi and na. All right. Sociology and political science. Next is? हाँ पूछ. No, middle path is different. When Buddha is talking about middle path, that is different. You know, but here when Merton is saying, so you should not say Merton is sociology is Buddha, not that way. But essence wise same. That don't be too radical. Don't be too radical. It's the balance which is more important. But Buddha is talking more in philosophical sense. Here we are data driven, right? Then structuration is when you are trying to understand structure through an individual or through an agency. Like I told you, you want to know the concept of teacher by examining Sunil. टीचर देखने जाएंगे तो टीचर कहाँ मिलेगा आपको? वहां तो कोई सुनील मिलेगा, कोई XYZ मिलेगा, टीचर तो नहीं मिलेगा. तो to understand teacher, you have to study Sunil. But Sunil should be studied in the light of teacher. Not Sunil as a friend, not Sunil as a vagabond. Sunil as a teacher. वो important है, वो आपको study करना है. तो this is what structuration is. When you're trying to understand the structure through the, you can say individual or agency. Fine. Subject matter, so louder. Subject matter of, what is subject matter per se? Subject matter मतलब उसमें क्या पढ़ेंगे, उसमें हमारा क्या point of interest होगा, that is what we call subject matter. So when we say subject matter of sociology, subject matter of philosophy, subject matter of political science, everywhere we have a division na, ki who will study what. Subject matter of biology is different from subject matter of sociology, isn't it? So that's how subject matter simply means us particular subject mein what we are going to study, that is what we call subject matter. Fine. All right. So you can write that sociology and political science. In this you can write that while sociology is, I know it's repetition, but then even you can say sociology dash, but then even, while sociology is scientific study of, while sociology is scientific study of society, her institutions, processes, and their continuity and change, in a comprehensive manner, political science, on the other hand, political science is scientific study of distribution of power and authority, distribution of power and authority, system of governance, and other political institutions, So the first thing we have done, what they study. In general, while political science focuses upon, there should be an inverted comma, why and how, focuses upon why and how of the political institutions, what and how of the political institutions, good, what and how of the political institutions, but डांट क्यों रहे थे सर आप इसके लिए? All right, fine. What and how of the political institutions, sociology focuses on why of it. It should be in inverted comma. Sociology focuses on why of it. Focus upon why of it. For example, Rajni Kothari highlighted predominance of vote bank politics, in Indian political system, based on caste hierarchies, which can be better explained. अब why की बात हो रही, which can be better explained which can be better explained by understanding the emergence and continuity of caste system. Emergence and continuity of caste system. Caste system. अच्छा, just for reference, देखिए ये अंडरस्टैंडिंग जितनी अच्छी होगी सोसाइटी की, you can govern the people better. Do you have any idea? You have read 1857 mutiny here and there. 1857 mutiny was crushed by British, right? East India Company. Which regiment or which army was responsible for it? Any clue? Which army did it? Which regiment did that? Not Awadh. What happened there in, that was Barakpur, that's a different. 1857, chalo, let me keep it simple for maybe some of you are not aware of that incidents. I'm sure you have heard of 1857 mutiny, where the army mutiny happened. And let me take you back now. Year was probably 1832. William Bentinck was now leaving, was about to leave. And you know what he wrote in his diary to his successor? He said, we are doing a mistake. I'm taking year 1832. And the governor is writing to the successor, we have done a mistake, we are doing a mistake by recruiting too much of upper caste in our East India Company, as they are more loyal to their caste than the East India. If something goes wrong, if there's a conflict between their caste priorities and East India Company priorities, they will choose their caste priorities. I don't know how he was seeing that what problem is going to come. And the solution, a likely solution could be, his writing, and a likely solution could be, let's recruit another army consisting of lower caste to counter them when and if needed. ये 1832 का excerpt है from the passing governor to the successor. And following this, we made another army called Mahar Regiment. Mahar Regiment and Gorkha Regiment. Gorkhas got defeated from upper caste Rajputs in 1806 in the Kumai War. They were still yet to brace that impact. So a Gorkha Regiment was made and Mahar Regiment was made as a counter to upper caste regiments when and if needed. And then this Royal Enfield thing happened. Those guns and the caste thing came and they retaliated, mutiny happened, and that mutiny was crushed just within 5 days with the help of Mahar Regiment. Their caste suppression was used as a tool. Now look, read the line. This is what, if you know what is the fabric of the caste, how it came and how it works, you could understand that how it could be utilized in the political system. So if you see that how, when Mayawati ji came in politics, what was her slogan? शायद आपको बात सुनने में अजीब लगे, but I remember when we were in college days, we used to take oath. In college days election के समय में, they used to come with thali. And they used to have one taraju, vermilion, tilak, and kind of tiny sword. And if someone is Kshatriya, talwar ki kasam khao, jati ko bachayenge. If someone was from the Vaishya community, taraju ki talwar kasam khao, jat ko bachayenge. If someone from Brahmin, tilak ki kasam khao, jati ko bachayenge. And on the other hand, what Mayawati ji's slogan, official, on record, you can search it on YouTube. Tilak, taraju aur talwar, inko maro jute char. This was official slogan, which was written on the walls, was slayed on the public platform, and so and so. And the same Mayawati ji in 2007 was saying, Hathi nahi Ganesh hai, Brahma Vishnu Mahesh hai. Because equations started changing. And they realized that Brahmins has to be taken on board. So all these things, can't you see the political institutions are being run by these? And if you don't understand all these things, and that's why I agree. I completely agree to this fact that in 2014, when Modi ji won with a thumping majority, it was written that among the many factors, one factor is that is he is OBC. आप इसको completely deny नहीं कर सकते, 54% वोट बैंक है. अब ये वोट बैंक, अभी बात थोड़ी अजीब लगती है सुनने में, but if you go at the grassroots level, if you do the research, then you'll be clear on it, how it works. So in India, if you want to understand Indian political system and you don't know the caste, you will be a novice, even lesser than novice. What you call minnows. I don't want to use that word minnows though. That will be harsh one, but a novice for sure. So there are people who are thinking that development will be the agenda, this will be the agenda. No, that is one of the agenda, but there are other things also undercurrent which work. So this way, Rajni Kutha, sociology and political science are so closely knitted, especially in case like India, especially if you want to understand Asian politics, and that too South Asian politics, you need to be very abreast with the sociology, social fabric, then you can understand how political system governance is working there. Because this entire Southeast Asia is characterized by what? Dynastic democracies. I don't know who used this term, but it's a good term, dynastic democracy. They are democracies, but king and kingdom still continues. So this is how we got a very famous term called dynastic democracy. So there are democracies, they'll be dynastic. कि किंग जो फैमिली है, रॉयल फैमिली, उसी से लोग बार बार आ रहे हैं. So this is how we got what Rajni Kothari is trying to say, that vote bank politics is there in India, and you can't understand vote bank politics unless and until you're having a better understanding of society. So how and what? By political science. Why is by sociology. Next you can write that. So this was first overlapping. Second is, according to Herbert Spencer, the political institutions were the key driver. Political institutions were the key drivers of change in social structure, that will be even better. Changes in social structure. And therefore, a better understanding of political sociology, a better understanding of political science, and therefore a better understanding of political science will be useful to understand factors of change. Fine. किस वजह से changes society में हो रहा है? Factors of change. On the other hand, from the next paragraph, on the other hand, Bottomore highlighted that how, on the other hand, the Bottomore highlighted, TV Bottomore highlighted, नाम सुना इनका कहीं? Good. Sociology में है ना? all right. Bottomore highlighted that how political philosophies has been instrumental in bringing modernity and change in society. So, better understanding of these philosophies are needed better understanding of these philosophies are needed in better understanding of society. Better understanding of society. Fine. I say political philosophies give you hope, give you, this what is called audacity of hope that you can change and these kind of things. So that's how TV Baltimore said that how it could be. So I said two names that must be there, that you have to first say that how, like Rajni Kothari kind of thing, which says that equations of what and how versus why. And then you should talk about that how Spencer said, then Baltimore is natural, you can recall it. Now next fellow, if you could recall, well and good, definitely will add up value in your answer. That is Habermas. Now you can write according to Habermas, Habermas, according to Habermas, power or authority is not static. Power and authorities are not static. एक बार दे दिया तो हो गया. Power and authorities are not static. Fine. तो ऐसा नहीं when I'm in this class, you had given me authority and this is forever. अभी मैं 3-4 दिन गुंडई करूं, देखिए चौथे दिन आप authority को बदल दोगे. Natural. 3-4 days if I am going, say, despotic, hegemonic, you will come down, and things will start changing, So this is, in fact, एक और हजरत है, Ralph Dahrendorf. अभी उनको नहीं इंट्रोड्यूस कर रहा क्योंकि अभी वो it might sound complicated, but आगे जब मार्क्स पढ़ लेंगे तो आप उनको भी यहाँ पे ऐड कर सकते हो for this argument. So according to Habermas, the power and authorities are not static. On the contrary, there is an ongoing legitimacy crisis. Remember that word? In the last class we have talked about ongoing legitimacy crisis. That means authorities have to re-establish themselves again and again. Authorities have to re-establish themselves again and again. Fine. In fact, शायद ये रीजन है कि ब्यूरोक्रेसी में थोड़ा आपको एरोगेंस दिखेगा. Bureaucracy is a bit arrogant than political system, politicians, because they know मेरा ज़्यादा transfer करा सकते हैं, isn't it? They can't suspend me, they can't take off my job, while politicians know that every five year I have to give a test. If I'm lucky, maybe earlier also. Every 5 year I have to give a test and I have to pass that. But nowadays, the way things are happening, even bureaucracy is understanding. When a new chief minister is coming, the whole team has been changed now. So he knows ki from being DGP to DGP Home Guard. Yes, DGP means this much of tantrum, these many portfolios, and DGP Home Guard, just one office somewhere. So that is what now they are understanding. This is the beauty of democracy. आप उस bureaucrat को कुछ नहीं कर सकते, but if the political order got changed, that bureaucrat will be answerable to someone. So this way, obviously, needless to say, there's ongoing legitimacy crisis, and they have to reestablish themselves. So for better understanding of authority continuations, better expectations of society, Expectations of society. Or sorry, my bad. Better understanding of expectation of society. Better understanding of expectation of society is needed. Better understanding of expectation of society is needed. Making sense? Better understanding of expectation of society is needed. So if you really want to be in power, you have to understand what people like and how their aspirations are changing. So obviously, when in 2014 they came in power, your aspirations were different. In 2019, the aspirations might be different. In 2024, it may be further different. So the same people in 2014 were expecting something called law and order. Now in 2024, they wanted inflation to be controlled. Expectations are changing. And that's why some smart people, they create expectation. Just to keep the things in control, they make sure that new expectation is created. Like I can tell you, 2029 election is on gender issues. जहाँ कहीं वहाँ पे लिख के दे दो. The next election will be on gender issues. Because, 33% reservation, they are going to encash it. And if opposition is smart, if is a big if, then they can raise another issue called taxation system. Because visibly there now. Tax terrorism is visibly there. So my calculation is saying it's going to be gender versus taxation. अभी आपको बात थोड़ी अटपटी लगेगी. और ऐसा होता है हम लोगों के साथ. When we say something, people don't take us seriously. And what happens, oh, he said that. Everything has a pattern. जैसे आप physics में पढ़ते हो ना, कि circumference और diameter has the pattern, 22/7 pi. Even in societies, we have the pattern. It's all about you can see the pattern or not. So there is a pattern. Next elections are going to be on gender versus taxation. मैं टैक्सेशन इसलिए बोल रहा हूं क्योंकि एक लीडर थोड़े खाली हो गए हैं, उनको टैक्स का आइडिया है. I hope you're getting my point. He has been from the department and he knows these things. तो वो कैसे होगा, I don't know how it's going to unfold, but it will come that way. जैसे भी होगा, I don't know. But this is something which is going to be likely. Because in 2017 it was said that now it's going to be nationalism and as a new political agenda. 2029 political agenda is going to be for sure gender, because females are 50% voters. You can't ignore them. And on the other hand, if you have to counter it, people may come together again with a bigger identity called these kind of things. And इससे पहले भी, अगर आप, if you're aware of, Karnataka has started asking this again. We are the taxpayers, why we should suffer? They started calculating. So this is just the beginning. This will go further. So this way, if you really want to understand legitimacy, how authorities continue, you need to understand what are the expectations of the people. And that's why political science and sociology are close again. So this was where they are intersecting. Three things I said. One was Rajni Kothari's thing. Second was, जिसको आप जरूर ध्यान रखें, that was how in terms of how we got this idea that Baltimore was saying. And obviously Spencer is something which we have discussed so many times. And अगर legitimacy crisis याद रहा, तो yes, it will be a good thing in your answer if they're asking sociology and political science. ऐसे ही एक Ralph Delendar भी, उसकी भी हम बात करेंगे जब we'll talk about IC and all. Next is, you can write that. तो ये तो similarities की बात थी. Yes, sir. Rajni Kothari, by his statement, is generalizing that politics is caste-based. In India, we are talking about in India only, confined to India. No, it's across the India. Vote bank politics is across the India. There is no part of the country which is not having this caste-based politics. Don't think it's something confined only to northern India or the southern India. In India, The politics is caste-based. In India, Rajni Kothari is trying to say politics is largely caste-based. आप छोटा सा एक रिसर्च करना आज, if you have time, वैसे आपको तो NCERTs पढ़नी है बहुत सारी, but from 1990, when OBC reservation in the politics has been given, from there till date, calculate the chief ministers, half of the chief ministers are OBC. Half of the chief ministers. This is just one statistics. So if you want to read more, I can give you a book, but abhi mat padhiyega, abhi to bahut sari cheezein aur padhni hai. That is the biography of 1 billion people. Biography of 1 billion people that talks about all these statistics at one place. That how, so there are several researchers, not one, hundreds of, proving that how caste and politics are so intertwined in India that you cannot ignore that equation. You cannot ignore that equation if you want to. But I'm not saying society is only caste-based. The politics in India is caste-based, is what Rajni Kothari is saying. Fine. So it was just an example. So Rajni Kothari is not generalizing to that extent. It's not excessive generalization, but yes, in India, caste, without understanding caste, you can never understand the political structure, the authority, and why someone is in power and why others are not. So this is how we got, when we talk about this idea that how they are together. Now you can write from the next paragraph. अभी तो हमने similarities की बात की, now differences में. While sociology is generic and informal, political science is more codified and formal. Political science is more codified and formal in its subject matter. Codified and formal in its subject matter. Codified and formal in its subject matter. These days, they together are developing. These days, they together are developing into interdisciplinary subjects like political sociology, where role of public policies, I thought not to, but I can't resist. This is a very good example to understand why sociology and political science. आपने बहुत सारी policies बनाई. Many policies failed. The reason was you overlooked the sociological understanding. Let me give you a quick example, which is very close to my heart, and maybe this may be useful for you in other places also. You know what has been problem of India's policy making in governance? Many people sitting here in Delhi in 5-star rooms, they thought they understand everything. They got enlightened, they understand everything, they don't need research. And what they think, and let me tell you, not necessarily the way you think is the format of reality. Reality may have other faces too. So one quick example coming in my mind is, India is the first country on this earth to have population control policies. And now first in population, something went wrong. India is the first country, 1952, to have population control programs. And we are first in population. And we are the only country with those kind of experimentation. I'm sure you have heard of 1975-76. India has gone with forced tubectomy, vasectomy. Forced sterilization program. Each district magistrate was given the task of 5,000 cases of tubectomy, vasectomy. And they all did it also, interestingly. Yet population went on growing. पॉपुलेशन रुकी नहीं, फिर भी बढ़ती रही. Many of the people, including that time in 1950s, 60s, 70s, even officially Sanjay Gandhi ji said in public, it's on record, so even I can say that people are not knowing what are the flip side of being populous and all, and that's why they are breeding more. And that's why these kind of policies are needed. And 50s, 60s, 70s, we spent a lot of resources. Finally, in 1989, Karnakaran committee was made. Why after spending these many years, these many resources and so many things, why we could not control population? दिक्कत कहाँ हो रही है? इतना सब कुछ पैसा खर्च हुआ, why we could not control population? And then one man, hats off to that man. Thankfully, he got finally Nobel Bharat Ratna. I'm talking about M.S. Swaminathan. Karnakaran asked M.S. Swaminathan, what do you think? What are the reasons? And Swaminathan ka jawab sunne layak tha. He said, sir, you're asking me to tell about a disease without looking at the report card. पहले मुझे report card तो दिखाओ, फिर मैं बताऊं disease क्या है. तो even Karnakaran got surprised. मतलब, said we need survey, door-to-door survey. 1993, India conducted door-to-door survey. कि भाई क्या प्रॉब्लम है, आखिर पॉपुलेशन क्यों नहीं कंट्रोल रही. पहली बार मैसिव डोर टू डोर सर्वे वाज कंडक्टेड. एक एक घर गए लोग, पूछा. एंड यू नो व्हाट वाज द कॉमन प्रॉब्लम? दे ऑल सेड, व्हाट इफ वन और टू चाइल्ड डाई, एटलीस्ट वन और टू विल सर्वाइव. प्रॉब्लम कहाँ थी और हम कहाँ देख रहे थे उसको? हमें लग रहा था दे आर इलिटरेट, दे आर इग्नोरेंट, दे आर वरीड अबाउट देयर किड्स, बिकॉज चिल्ड्रन वर डाइंग मोर ऑफन. So the parents were thinking at least one or two will survive if one were to die. 1994, Swaminathan submitted its report. If India want to control population, we should not be anti-natal. We should be pro-natal, or that is also called antenatal, to make sure that no child dies. If we could control that, that people are sure that their children will survive, things may change. We can turn the tables. 1994 report submitted, but after that, you know, Indian politics went on a roller coaster ride. Every day you have to update who was the prime minister. You know, finally, when the government got some stability in 2000, we got national population policy with this approach, and within 10 years, population started declining. Knowing the problem rightly is half the job done. Can you see that how a policy works if you understand better understanding of society? छोटी सी बात थी. अगर ये आपने 50s में समझ लिया होता कि this is the problem and let's be protective to the kids, things would have been different. But ठीक ही हुआ, नहीं हुआ एक तरह से, मतलब being selfish, because I am third child of my parents. So I am wondering sometime what if, you know, we got those things in being a bit selfish, but jokes apart. Just put a question mark, and that's what आप सब कई गलती करते हो जब आपसे पूछा जाता है what do you think, आपने कोई रिसर्च नहीं किया है. So don't write commonsensically. Say from the accepted norms and data. When I'm asking what do you think, या तो आपने रिसर्च किया होता. Many people sitting at table, अरे ऐसा ही होगा, अरे रुको, grow up. Grow up. You have not done any research. You should do the research first. And that's why this is a fallacy that I know everything. I know everything. सबको मुझे तो पता ही था. I know everything. That's the problem. So you should do the research to understand the problem. Even in your case studies also keep this in mind. Necessary research should be conducted. Is this the problem which looks prima facie? और कोई ये लिखे this is the problem and should be taken care of this way. दोनों में बहुत अंतर आएगा. If someone is saying prima facie, it looks this is the reason, which should be examined further. That's why suddenly we realize to make public policies, we need more data, we need more. I hope I'm making sense to you. So just don't think people sitting here in Delhi, they think they know everything. That's why government is now conducting research on everything, taking data from the people. Public, policies are floated in public, and then people give their opinion, experts give their opinion, what needs to be done. And then finally decisions are taken. This is the new approach of making policies. So in public policy, sociology has been of immense importance now. So what you've written, sir? Where role of public policies, civil societies, pressure groups, public policies, civil societies, and pressure groups in the political system, are examined through sociological lenses. Political sociology में पूरे इसी की बात करते हैं, are examined through sociological lenses. So this is how we got sociology and political science. Very frequently asked. अगर आप past का record देखोगे, तो one of the most frequent is sociology and political science, because both the disciplines are needed as you go in the job. Maybe that's the reason. Now next is sociology and history. Now sociology and history, again, what is history? Study of past. Huh? On the basis of facts and events. All right. In fact, that's why there's a fellow, Howard, E.Z. Howard, he said rightly that sociology is nothing but sociology. Let's listen to me first and then write, don't worry. Howard says sociology is nothing but in a way history of present, and history is nothing but sociology of past. Before I move further into history and sociology, I would like to introduce two more things that you should know. One thing is called form, and another thing is called content. So the same thing, form is the concept of teacher, content is Sunil. So form, the concept of teacher, content is Sunil. In philosophy, we talk about this, form versus content. So when we say form, you are talking about that structure, likely thing, and content is the way it is manifested. So form and content, that's how we talk. Now, history is something which talks about the events. History is chronological order of various events on the basis of facts and observations. And in history, we try to see that how society was in past, what were the reasons why it got changed, and so and so. And in sociology, what we are trying to understand that how societies exist, how they form, and they continue. That's why Redcliffe Brown said rightly, while sociology is nomethetic, history is ideographic. History is ideographic, and in history, we are trying to understand the sequences that how it happened in form of content, that how various king and kingdom, what were the reasons of those king and kingdoms, why they declined, why they got changed, all these kind of things. While in sociology, we see that how institutions are, how they are forming, how they are changing. तो sociology में हम form पे ज़्यादा focus कर रहे हैं, जबकि history में हम content पे जा रहे हैं. How the Mughal Empire was, how the Delhi Sultanate was, how the Mauryans were, how the Guptans were. We were looking into that in the detailing of the events. While in sociology, we are saying that how a civilization grow, how the civilization emerge, how they grow, how they prosperous, how they decline. All these things are. So this way we got, when we say what is called history, and history also is also trying to understand that not only just the event, not only just what has happened, but tries to analysis that what were the likely factors. And that helps in a way to understand that what could be the reason to grow the society and to fail in society. In fact, the noted historian Toynbee is one of the biggest name in history, and who believed that all civilizations from the ancient till modern had something common. They got certain challenges. Some people responded to those challenges. Others joined in, civilization came. And as long as these people started responding to the challenge, civilization grew. And then when civilization grew up to a point, some of the people became what is called despotic, and they became despotic. They started exploiting people. A new challenge came, new set of people came, and that civilization declined, a new civilization came. This is what the whole history is. Guptans golden period, then despotism, then decline. Mauryans came, rose, golden period, despotic, declined. Vedic people grew, they grew, then golden period, then the decline. So it seems that there is an ongoing recurring pattern. Sociology is more interested in those patterns. So history is detailing of each of the phase, each of the era, while sociology is more interested to understand that what are the reasons of this rise and fall. So this way sociology and history again are correlated, and otherwise also, if you see that entire early sociologists we talked about, be it Spencer, Comte, have not they talked about how society has evolved from the historical context? Even Karl Marx also said one thing, which is in our syllabus called historical materialism, that history must be viewed. History of the from past till date must be viewed by understanding how the material realities went on changing. So many of the early sociologists were eventually historians also, or believing that history should be, or history is inseparable part. Inseparable part. So now, when as long as we were talking about macro sociology, many of them believed that history is inseparable part of sociology. We have to compare how societies were in the past, how societies got changed, what are the factors of continuity, and so and so. So जब हम हिस्ट्री सोशियोलॉजी की बात करते हैं तो वी हैव टू गो इन द बैक अगेन. सो आई सेड 3-4 names. These are the names. And one more thing, if I say there was a king called let's say Chandragupta Maurya, he did all these things with the help of Chanakya and all, you know what you're doing? You're using your sociological imagination. याद आ रहा है मैंने एक term use किया था? Who gave that term? C. Wright Mills. Somebody is revising. C. Wright Mills. I told you C. Wright Mills gave a term called sociological imagination, where an individual thing is connected to the larger society. That why someone is poor is not just because of that individual. Maybe he have not got exposure to go to school and these kind of things. That is called sociological imagination. History cannot be better understood without sociological imagination. Without sociological imagination. And that's why even C. Wright Mills highlighted that sociology and history are interlinked. So जब हम history sociology की बात करते हैं तो these 3-4 names are. I repeat, one name I said was Howard. Fancy statement है, आप use कर सकते हो. Another is Radcliffe Brown, who believed, this is important, that history is ideographic while sociology is nomethetic. Nomethetic. History talks about chronology, events and all, while sociology is something trying to understand that how institutions are growing, how they are rising and how they are falling, and these kind of things. These kind of things. So these are 3-4 things even Karl Marx talked about. Weber also took the historical context to identify that how religion and society are interlinked. So many of the early sociologists were considering history as a source to understand society, its evolution and change. Its evolution and change. So this is how you can say history was providing the cause or source to understand the social phenomena with more generalistic pattern of the rise and fall. Fine. However, when it comes to history and sociology, they together had made now a more important discipline. But before that, I'm sorry to say, बट जो हिस्ट्री आपने पढ़ी है, एडम्स अप्रोच जिसको हम बोलते हैं, स्मिथ अप्रोच, सॉरी, सो दैट अप्रोच इज, हिस्ट्री है क्या पूरी? लव अफेयर एंड वॉर अफेयर ऑफ टॉप 5%. यही तो पढ़ा आपने हिस्ट्री में. कौन से राजा ने कहाँ राज किया, किसने किससे शादी की. अब आप 2024 की हिस्ट्री लिखोगे, 25 की हिस्ट्री, तो उसमें किसकी बात करोगे? सुनील की बात तो नहीं होगी. सुनील की बात नहीं होगी उसमें ना. उसमें बात होगी प्राइम मिनिस्टर की, उसमें बात होगी गोल्डन मैन की. हैशटैग ट्रम्प, आई कॉल हिम गोल्डन मैन. नो, ही इज द वन हैविंग द हाईएस्ट पोजीशन ऑफ गोल्ड टू 1 person. किसी एक आदमी के पास सबसे ज्यादा गोल्ड ट्रम्प के पास है, फिजिकल गोल्ड, and his hair is testimony of it. That's why I call him golden man. Just for information, if you're not knowing, maybe more than the central bank of many countries. So जो भी है, तो अब history of 2025 will be about whom? Trump, Iran war, Afghanistan war, maybe Russia, Ukraine. ये हिस्ट्री वहां इसकी बात हुई कि गरीब मास्टर भी था, बेचारा दौड़ भाग के क्लास कर रहा था, ट्रैफिक में फंस गया था, एंड ऑल दिस. इसकी तो बात आप करोगे नहीं हिस्ट्री में. रशिया यूक्रेन की बात होगी जब, व्हेन यू विल टॉक अबाउट रशिया एंड यूक्रेन, विल यू टॉक अबाउट दोस किड्स जो 4 साल से स्कूल नहीं गए? व्हाट अबाउट देम? 4 साल से बच्चे स्कूल नहीं गए होंगे. थिंक ऑफ इट. दे विल बी इन बंकर्स. लुक एट देयर चाइल्डहुड. यू किल देयर चाइल्डहुड. दैट्स बिगर कैजुअलिटी देन दोस पीपल डाइड. 4 साल से बेचारे बंकर में कहीं पड़े होंगे. गॉड नोज व्हाट काइंड ऑफ चाइल्डहुड दे आर लिविंग. God knows what kind of psychological pressure they are feeling. Remember 3 months of COVID? And now think of those kids. 4 years it has been. No schools, no exposure. Who will talk about those females? Just for information, that entire Eastern Europe, again, human trafficking has increased. It's very natural corollary. When if the war happens, the biggest casualty of war are who? The woman and the child. And who talks about it? Who talks about it? I don't know how many of you are knowing war children here. Who are war children? Anyone? Are you knowing who are the war children's? War children किसको बोलते हैं बांग्लादेश के केस में? That's why we need another history. Who are war children? Anyone? Not even a single one. Just for information, those who are not knowing, in 1971, during Bangladesh Freedom War, when the Pakistani army felt that they're about to lose the war, they did something very inhumane. Thousands of Bangladeshi females were abducted. They were deliberately impregnated. The idea was this way Pakistan will continue in Bangladesh. When these kids were born, Wazibur Rahman denied them citizenship, that they are not Bangladeshis. 35 years of war in United Nations, fight for rights, कि हम कौन सी country के हैं? No, so no man's land वाला issue. Which country we belong to? From 1971 to 2009, these kids were without any political identity. They were not Bangladeshis, they were not Pakistanis. They belong to no country technically. Nobody talks about it. Everyone talks about Wazibur Rahman, Amar Sonar Bengal, and all these kind of things. What about this kind of? Is history की कौन बात करेगा? Who will talk about this? That's why you will read in maybe in your GS gender empowerment. One of the things is Beijing Conference, Beijing Platform for Action 1995, which says female in the war or conflict zone. Even if you see what is Boko Haram doing, what ISIS has done, just go on United Nations and search that how that lady, which got Nobel Prize, was 27th wife of that fellow. All these things are happening, and nobody even talks about. What do you talk about? Oh, they bombed the area and they won. This is what your historians are reporting, are not they? That's why it was realized a new history is needed with the sociological understanding, and that's called subaltern history. This is where history and sociology again came together. Subaltern history. Subaltern history is looking from the below. Is alternative history. That's how it is. Alternative history, that too from below. So you tell me, whenever you look NCERT, do you have any idea in NCERT how many females photographs are there in history? Just 2. One Lakshmi Bai, another Sarojini Naidu. Generally, nahin. True. Only 2. Lakshmi Bai, and that too Lakshmi Bai because she won a war, kind of fought a war. Fought a war, and I don't know whether you're knowing that famous quote. I don't know that fellow who said this, but she was the only male among the, God knows all that crap, with due respect. Why I'm saying so? Because again, you're not understanding that her sacrifices are different. Her sacrifices are different. That's why one lady from Delhi University, she wrote a poetry called Ba is Crying. Ba is Kasturba Gandhi. Gandhi ji ki badi baat, and what about Kasturba Gandhi? But you were cleaning latrines in Africa because you wanted to be Gandhi. समझ में आता है. Why she was helping you. And what about her sacrifices? Where is the history of Dalits in your history? Can you tell me a single leader from Nagaland or single leader from what is called Northeast, any of the part, any of the freedom struggle? Very rare. What do you think? These people are sitting idle and doing nothing. I don't know how many of you are doing. Hidamba was from? Hidimba, main character of your Bhim's wife. She's from Nagaland, just for information, not Himachal. In Himachal you have a temple, that's a different thing. Who will talk about all these things then? And don't you think we're knowing that from the extreme north and extreme west, someone is marrying to the extreme east, that makes one India. This is what is called, now history should be viewed from the below, history of the downtrodden. तो इतिहास वो भी लिखे जिसमें मेरी बात भी करिए. My history also should be there. And just for information, in your UPSC, they ask this history more. So अगर आप बात करोगे who won what war, तो आप कुछ लोगों की बात करोगे. And if you talk about art and culture, then you will talk about us. तो आप हमारी बात करोगे. The art, culture, folklore, songs, में हमारी बातें होंगी. They belong to us. So we got a new history now called subaltern history, which is nothing but sociology and history coming together. This is a new approach of history that's called subaltern history, where we are talking about the subordinateds. So from subordinated we got sub, from alternative approaches, altern. That's how subaltern history. Ambedkar was the first man to introduce this, and then we got Ranjit Guha, which introduced subaltern history, and then many more joined in. Ramchandra Guha is subaltern historian, and if you see these days, and not only that, there's one more thing called double subaltern history. Females, maybe you only talk about urban females and their problems. And this question there was in GS also. Don't you think that all the females movement are confined only to the problem of urban and the rich middle class? What about the poor females and their issues? Just for information, their issues are bigger than just your security and safety issues. They are not having enough of nutrition and dying because of that. Do you have any idea that what is the MMR of lower caste poor females just because of child related issues? That's more than 3 times more than the national average. Nutrition is a bigger issue for them than so-called things which we are discussing here in urban areas, #MeToo. So this question was good question. Ki, don't you think that the so-called urban the female movements are only confined to the urban problems? What about the poor females and their issues? They are dying because they're lactating. We live in that country where females are dying because they're lactating their babies and they don't have enough of nutrition. They don't have enough of nutrition. The same injection is being used again and again. Same injection is used again and again in the labor room. And on an average in Indian labor room, we have more than 3 labors in an hour. And to sterilize any syringe, you need at least 1 to 2 hours. Who will talk about all these things? That's why, obviously, bura kya hoga? United Nations has come with a new syringe which can be used once only and it will get blocked then. But these things are not the solution. Solution is to understand its root cause. इसलिए जरा ध्यान से आपकी हिस्ट्री में कहाँ से ज़्यादा फोकस कर रहे हैं. अगर आप क्वेश्चन देखोगे तो आपको आई एम डिविएटिंग. आई नो एनीवन कैन से सर क्या इस टॉपिक में इतनी जरूरत थी. आई डिविएटेड अ बिट जस्ट टू टेल यू कि अब सबल्टन हिस्ट्री को ज़्यादा वैल्यू मिल रही है हर जगह. एंड योर क्वेश्चंस आर आल्सो रिफ्लेक्टिंग दैट. Questions on gender, questions on let's say issues of child health and such like things. कौन बात करेगा इनकी? And that's why Ambedkar once said, want to make one nation, make a nation where we are also represented. जहाँ हमारी बात भी हो. अगर हमारी बात नहीं होगी तो what will happen? How will make one nation? So this way history has gone way far now from its original format. That's called Ithmit approach. Now we are talking, और वैसे भी how many from history background? Please don't take me seriously. Forgive me for this. Don't take me seriously. But I would like to tell you one thing, very interesting, very funny about history. You know, one of the greatest historian of all time, his name is Burke. Burke is the greatest world historian. He wrote Encyclopedia of World History. It was his last major work. अपनी आखिरी किताब लिख रहे थे वो. His room was at first floor and he was writing the book about world history. And downstairs, people were making noise. It was so clumsy, so noisy, he could not concentrate. So he went downstairs and said, "You idiots, I'm writing world history and you're disturbing me. Why, you're making this much of noise?" He came to know just an hour before a murder has happened. And 10 people with 10 opinions were there. 10 लोग थे और 10 opinion थी कि किसने murder किया, क्यों किया. He came back laughing. He wrote in his diary, he came back laughing कि just a murder has happened and there are 10 opinions within 10 people and I am an idiot writing world history with my own interpretations. They say they burned their book and Burke therefore was outcasted from his subject. बहुत कम लोग बर्क के बारे में पढ़ते हैं, अनलेस एंड यूर इन एमए आप उनके बारे में नहीं पढ़ते हो. उनको लोगों ने डिक्लेयर कर दिया कि पागल हो गए. आई थिंक ही गॉट एनलाइटनमेंट. He understood कि actually I'm doing something idiotic. So by the way, but subaltern history does make sense. So art and culture, when you talk again in culture, what? And that's why अगर आप क्वेश्चंस को ध्यान से देखो, temples, songs, theatrics, these belong to everyone. Architecture of building doesn't belong to everyone. Temple belong to everyone. Understand this difference. And that's where they focus in your art and culture, where they focus in your questions. If you see that, you may understand why sociology and history has come this much closer. And now to everywhere, every new historian is subaltern only. And double subaltern is when we are talking about problems of female, and that too female of lower income group, LIG as you call it, lower income group. Are you knowing that? Because most of the problems are either MIG or UIG, upper income group. We call it, that's how LIG, MIG, UIG. LIG is lower income group. इसके बाद stratification में थोड़ा करेंगे भी. So most of the problems are confined only to MIG, UIG, middle income group and upper income group females. Only their problem. What about the problems of females of lower income group? So this is how we got when we talk about sociology and history. दो तीन बातें मैंने कही इसमें. 2-3 names you have to remember. First is Howard, Radcliffe Brown, Karl Marx, because he was talking about historical materialism. And then you can say that how subaltern history has come. So first thing, what was the subject matter? Second thing, how they're overlapping. Third, how they are slightly different. And fourth, how they had emerged into the new discipline. Let's slide it quickly, then we'll move to the next. So, in fact, बहुत सारी बातें अब यहाँ पे somebody saying Lachit, ठीक, I agree, you got a name. But again, how many people are knowing? अभी मैं इस क्लास में चलो मैं लचित को फिर तो I know that जो हिस्ट्री पढ़ते हैं नॉर्थ ईस्ट की वही जानते होंगे. आप में से कितने लोग इरोम शर्मिला को जानते हैं? रेज योर हैंड्स. Who is Irom Sharmila? One. Please, those who are from northeast, don't raise your hands because you have more likeliness to know. I understand, and that's bad कि we are not knowing. Irom Sharmila को कितने लोग जानते हैं इस क्लास में? 1, 2, 3. Can you see? और अन्ना हजारे को कितने लोग? Should I ask अन्ना हजारे को कौन नहीं जानता? Raise your hand. Everyone knows अन्ना हजारे. अन्ना हजारे का फास्ट कितने दिन का था? 15-16 दिन, 15-16 days. And Irom Sharmila's fast hunger strike is of 15 years against APSPA in Northeast. 15 years. And look, that's why Adam Gondvi is a famous writer. He once wrote in Hindi, obviously I will try to translate in my best possible way, but in Hindi that says, तुम जब कभी इस देश का इतिहास लिखोगे, क्या उसमें मेरी भूख मेरी प्यास लिखोगे? घर का मुखिया मर गया, बच्चे हो गए अनाथ, तुम तो आंकड़ों में एक लाश लिखोगे. So whenever you are going to write the history of my country, will you talk about my impoverishment and hunger? The head of the family dies, and what about the orphanage? You will write only one fellow died. What about that part? So look, this is bad that we don't know Irom Sharmila. Chalo, एक आध नाम और देखते हैं. Who is Rajinder Singh? Rajinder Singh. How many are from Rajasthan? Raise your hand. And Rajinder Singh? No idea. No clue. Not, this is not your problem. It's our problem. That what heroes we are creating in your minds. And history creates those heroes. Rajinder Singh is called Waterman of India, and many of the water bodies which were dead, baudis jisko bolte hain hum, which were dead in Rajasthan, has been revitalized by them. He's called Waterman of India. Waterman of India. From last 18 years, continuously, incessantly working for betterment of water bodies in India. ऐसे बहुत सारे नाम हैं. There are several heroes. Kulandi Francis, anyone from Maharashtra? And so and so. मैं 28 नाम गिना सकता हूं आपको. You know, just to tell that how we are not knowing our right heroes. Okay. So this is how, when we talk about subaltern history is needed. क्योंकि आपने अभी तक किसकी बात की? सिर्फ king and kingdom की. You only talked about king and kingdom. You know, anyone from south or even Maharashtra? Who is called Indian Machiavelli except Chanakya or Maratha Machiavelli? चलो कम से कम some people came up. शायद history में कुछ इसका reference आ गया होगा इसलिए. All right, ठीक. So there are so many names telling about all these things. Now you can write that. You can say sociology and history. In this you can write that. अब वही line. While sociology is, वो आपको हर क्वेश्चन में लिखना होगा. While sociology is scientific study of, while sociology is scientific study of, while sociology is scientific study of society, her institutions, society, her institutions, processes, continuity and change, processes, continuity and change, processes, continuity and change. History is scientific study of, history is scientific based on facts and events. History is scientific study of events of past societies, events of past societies, past societies. According to Howard, according to Howard, Nitin Sangwan has given the reference of this fellow. According to Howard, while sociology is history of present, history is sociology of past. Sociology is history of present. History is sociology of past. This line makes sense? So, in other words, history reads or history studies, जो भी लिखना चाहे. In other words, history studies the sociological reads or studies the sociological inquiries of past societies. अब इसमें दोनों मत लिखिएगा, कोई एक चीज लिखिएगा जो भी आपको समझ में आए. Past societies, while sociology studies history in making. Sociology studies history in making. जो भी history बन रही है, history in making, right? History in making. Both the disciplines both the disciplines are intersecting each other, in several ways, most of the early sociologists like Auguste Comte, Spencer, etc. Highlighted the evolution of society, in historical context, that's how they're intersecting, historical context, where similar institutions were studied over a period of time. Fine. Over a period of time. Even Karl Marx advocated that history must be viewed in its material conception, sense, ऐसा कुछ लिख सकते हैं, must be viewed in its material sense, known as historical materialism. Similarly, even Weber also used historical context to understand how societies became capitalistic. अच्छा, did you notice one thing? Almost सब में कोई भी अदर डिसिप्लिन की हम बात करते हैं तो लुक एट योरसेल्फ कि स्पेंसर कहीं काम आ रहे हैं कि नहीं, अगस्ट कॉम्ट कहीं काम आ रहे हैं कि नहीं, कार्ल मार्क्स कहीं है, वेबर कहीं है, तो यू विल सी दैट ओके देयर इज सम काइंड ऑफ थिंग, सो दैट अगर कुछ याद नहीं रहा तो ये 3-4 तो याद आएंगे. That's why I was insisting कि at least you should know Auguste Comte, Spencer a little. So Comte, Spencer, Marx, Durkheim, Weber, इनमें से कोई ना कोई आपको मिल जाएगा वहाँ पे which could be useful. So this is how you should be understanding. So Marx has also talked about it, Weber has also talked about it, and then specifically here we are talking about Howard. Now you can write further that according to Radcliffe Brown, please mind the spelling, Radcliffe, pronounced as Radcliffe, but CLI only, so CLIFFE. According to Radcliffe Brown, while sociology is nomethetic, हिस्ट्री इज इडियोग्राफिक. इसको मत भूलिएगा, ये बहुत जरूरी है. History is idiographic. Sociology is nomothetic. History is idiographic. So history provides the detail of a given empire, in the given period of time, of a given empire in the given period of time, given empire in the given period of time, given period of time. Sociology provides a general view over a period of times. General view over a period of times. As an example, you can write. जरूरी नहीं कि आप एग्जाम में एग्जाम्पल लिखें, डिपेंड करता है आपको कितना याद आ रहा है उस समय. You can write, for example, Toynbee, Toynbee, B for Bombay, Toynbee. हाँ, वहां भी हमने बात की. Toynbee, for example, Toynbee highlighted that how all civilizations from ancient till date, till date had followed a similar path of emergence, growth, reaching to zenith or pinnacle, height, जो भी लिखना चाहे, reaching to zenith, paramount, pinnacle, जो भी लिखना हो, zenith, then decline and decay, zenith, 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 and then decline and decay. Again, I have already told you, when I'm giving these spellings, it does not mean I'm doubting your credentials. Maybe someone like me is sitting, that's what. So, zenith, then decline and decay. So that has been what is called all civilizations from Babylonian till date. All civilizations had the same, you can say, fate, that they rise, and how they rise, this will understand in social change. That how every civilization grows, there are certain conditions met, and then they flourish, and then they decline. So it happens with everyone, right? So this is how we got, when we talk about how history is history is idiographic, sociology is nomothetic. Fine. Now further you can write that. Despite these similarities, while history is more interested in sequencing of events, क्या हुआ उसके बाद क्या हुआ, sequencing of events. अच्छा, मैं सिर्फ अगली लाइन लिखने से पहले I would like to ask a quick thing to you. Why anyone commits suicide? If I ask you, why anyone commits suicide? मैं कुछ बोलना चाह रहा हूँ इसलिए. Why anyone commits suicide? Social reason, could not cope up with the things. Socialization, आपने क्या कहा? Loss of hope, mental issues, mental breakdown, yes. Unable to face the reality. अब देख रहे हो जो कुछ भी आप बोल रहे हो दैट इज कॉल्ड कॉजल जनरलाइजेशन, आप कॉज की बात कर रहे हो। अब मैं दूसरी चीज रख रहा हूं, व्हाई एनीवन स्मोक? हाँ, टू लाउडर, आई कुडंट हियर, माय बैड। क्या कहा आपने? अच्छा, स्ट्रेस फ्री, हाँ आई एग्री, कंप्लीटली बाय, यस। peer pressure, to enjoy, what else? Mental satisfaction. मैं कुछ बताना चाह रहा हूं. When I asked this question, why anyone commits suicide, you all gave me causal explanation कि ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है. And when I asked why anyone smoke, you all gave me functional explanation कि ये function perform करता है इसलिए ऐसा हो रहा है. Are you getting? In general, there are two types of explanation possible across the board in natural sciences, social sciences, everywhere. Either it will be causal, or it will be functional, or it will be both. And that's why हम इस पे will work on it कि जब आप चीज़ों को समझ लेंगे then कि whenever you're writing in conclusion, you should be thinking causal generalization, functional generalization, सभी करते हैं. So अब मैंने आपसे क्या कहा, while history is interested in sequencing of the event, sociology is more interested in, क्या लिखा हमने लाइन? Sequencing of events. Sociology is more interested in or highlighting in, interested थोड़ा informal हो जाएगा. Sociology is more highlighting on causal and functional generalizations. Is more highlighting on causal and functional generalizations कि वैसा क्यों हो रहा था. More interested on causal and functional generalizations. So we are not interested in the event कि कितने बच्चे कितने मिनट पे हुआ. We are not interested how many people died. We are not interested what were the strength and at what point the army was standing and all these kind of things. We are interested that why Marathas lost the game despite they being superior in everything. Why they lost, why other side won, why Abdali won. We are more interested into this in sociology to identify, okay, resources matter. So this is where sociology is more interested in generalization, while history is more into sequencing of events की चीज कैसे हो रही थी. So this is the difference इसमें. It should be the part of history, then that's why Howard believed this way, and that's his line is right. But history generally has not catered till we got the subaltern. Nowadays we are also working on causal. So earlier history was more interested in, that's why I say more interested in sequencing of the events. Her question is very interesting. She said that as Howard was saying that history, sociology of past should answer all the three things: what, how, and why. What, how, and why. But as a matter of fact is that history was more interested in sequencing of the how was their priority, while in sociology why was the priority, why that particular thing happened irrespective of time and scale, and what is the pattern into that, how the same thing happened here in every time. So every time you see whenever the rise and fall of an empire was, almost similar reasons were there. Interestingly, almost similar reasons were there. So this way we are more interested in why part. Fine. Sequencing of the event means that how they are being aligned. क्या हुआ उसके बाद क्या हुआ उसके बाद क्या हुआ उसके बाद क्या हुआ. This is what you do in history, don't you? That कौन कौन से event कैसे कैसे आए and what were bearing on each other. Nowadays we are doing, but that is impact of sociology. That's why I said a new thing has emerged called subaltern. So subaltern historians, especially, I don't want to go that far, but there was one book you might have read, A.L. Basam, The Wonder That Was India. Basam is considered to be one which introduced why in history. We started interrogating the history from why point of view also. And that's why modern historians now are more looking into this also, ki why this happened. And that is impact of sociology. That is impact of sociology we got, because Basam wrote that book which was talking about that common man's history, to identify why things were there in that particular way, and so and so. So this is how, when we say history was more interested in, more is important here, more interested in sequencing of the events, while sociology is more interested into explanation of it. Now you can write further that these days, history and sociologies are intertwined. History, in fact, somebody is saying also, Sudhanshu is saying suicide is not a problem, external pressure of, इस पर हम थोड़ी और बात करेंगे, but हाँ, that's how it is. So, but I wanted to tell you what is causal and functional generalization. Yes, ma'am. Or functional. It can be both also. It can be both. Like religion is both causal and functional. We'll talk about it. Religion जब बना तो reason कुछ और थे, बनने के बाद कुछ और काम कर रहे हो. So it has both causal and functional. It depends. So, what you written, sir? Now these days, history and sociology are intertwined in its approaches. Because to understand society, references from history are unavoidable. नहीं तो कंपेयर कैसे करेंगे? References from history are unavoidable, and to understand history, sociological outlook is useful. Most of the historians these days are eventually sociologists. आप जितने भी बड़े नाम लोगे आज के टाइम के हिस्टोरियन से, इरफान हबीब, फॉर दैट मैटर इवन, मैं आर्कियोलॉजिस्ट की बात नहीं कर रहा, दे आर डिफरेंट ऑल टुगेदर, दे आर मोर साइंटिफिक. Archaeologists are more fact based and scientific, but most of the historians these days are having sociological outlook. Then history and sociology, from the next paragraph, history and sociology together has developed in disciplines like subaltern history, SUB or ALTERN, alternative का short form, subaltern history, along with double subaltern, Double subaltern is when we are talking about poor females also. That is what double subaltern is. Where history of common man from the below is the subject matter. अभी तक from the above था, from the below is subject matter. Fine. So it's very useful to understand exploitations and the way things has happened. तो again I repeat, दो तीन नाम जरूर याद रखिए हिस्ट्री में. एक तो हॉवर्ड का नाम ध्यान रहे तो ठीक है, रेडक्ले ब्राउन जरूर ध्यान रखें, कार्ल मार्क्स should be there, and then obviously you can say that how evolutionary sociologists were. Now, here as a note you can write, in order to understand history, in order to understand history, in order to understand history, the sociological imagination, the sociological imagination, the sociological imagination could be of great significance. Sociological imagination could be of great significance. Great significance. Sociological explanation is coined by C. Wright Mills. The term sociological explanation is coined by or given by, coined बोलते हैं COINED, coined. Sociological imagination is sociological imagination is coined by C. Wright Mills. Even slower, don't me. Is sociological imagination is coined by C. Wright Mills, which referred to sociological imagination is coined by C. Wright Mills, which refer to the capacity to understand individualistic phenomena, capacity to understand individualistic phenomena in larger social context, individualistic phenomena in larger social context. For example, while poverty looks at, while poverty looks like an individual thing, it can be better understood by understanding the social fabric of that individual, by understanding the social fabric of that individual, social fabric of that individual. शायद आपको उसकी इंपॉर्टेंस ना पता हो, but to be honest, a very few, and percentage wise not more than 10%, a very few young of your age are lucky enough to study in this age. You're very lucky, so that you are, because you are born in that family, you got those opportunities, and that's why you're very lucky. I'm not more than 10%, trust me. Only 10% of the youngsters of your age group are having this facility and the freedom so that they continue their studies after 20 plus. Here I can see, please, I hope I'm not transcending my limits. Here I can see people sit this way, हाँ पढ़ाओ, as if they listen to me, I will be, maybe enlightened and forgiven. And there are kids waiting in the queues at times कि सर आपका 10 मिनट मिल जाता तो. Now it's just, you were lucky, full stop, was a big deal. Why to feel bad about it? There's nothing wrong in being lucky. There's nothing wrong, but this understanding is needed. If someone is poor, someone is illiterate, that means he's not idiot. Maybe the social fabric was like that. We belong to that country. And in fact, I could tell you one thing. What is the importance of the sociological imagination? I'm not trying to be modest, but as a matter of fact, I was the most stupid in my kin group. In my kin group, I was the one who was very bad in studies. I'm telling you, if my high school friends will come to know I'm a teacher, they will feel bad about my students. कि क्या ही पढ़ाता होगा वो, who was so notorious himself. It took 5-6 months for my math teacher to understand when the day he beats me, why his cycle get punctured. I used to puncture his cycle. That was my revenge. And you know what? Among my kin group, the most talented was my first cousin, female. She is not graduate. And I studied everything. जितनी भी डिग्रीज होती हैं पॉसिबल, PhD, पोस्ट डॉक, जो भी आप सोच सकते हो. Why? Because being male, I was advantageous. My father can afford those tuitions. So I studied. And the one who was most talented, she's not even graduate. Apparently, I seems to be meritocratic and she is not. A bit of sociological imagination will help that I robbed her actually. I robbed her share to some extent. This is sociological imagination. So next time when you see someone not say illiterate or not doing well, do the sociological imagination, maybe something else is also there. So I hope I'm making some sense. I'm not saying that don't feel pity about it, that they are lucky. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong in being lucky. I wish you further luck. But then even, we should be at least sensitive enough. That's what sociological imagination is. To understand that otherwise individualistic looking things are not individualistic. It has its social fabric and it's bearing on it. So this is what, अब इसके बिना history हमेशा incomplete रहेगी. That's why we believe if we want to understand history, sociological imagination is imperative. Fine, that's the reason why I gave it as a separate note. So what have you written, sir? Of that individual. This sociological imagination is of great help. This sociological imagination is of great help. Great help in history to understand the social contexts, to understand the social contexts for any particular event. Social contexts for any particular event. For example, in order to understand imperialism in India, the fragmented nature of society, could be of great significance. इसलिए उनके लिए आसान था, of great significance. आपको क्या लगता है, वो बड़े काबिल हैं कि they are attracting youngsters for Naxalism? They can persuade? No. So don't think they are becoming Naxalites just in the political way. Look at the social fabric and you understand maybe they are seeking job, an alternative option of job. The way you are giving salaries, they are giving salaries. You are giving them badges and honors, they are giving them badges and honors. So to understand, this is sociological imagination explaining why in history, whenever there was income disparities, whenever society was fragmented, how it was easy for an outsider to rule over you. So this is where we got sociological imagination. And especially the modern India, the history of modern India cannot be explained well without the sociological imagination. So that is how we got when we talk about sociology and history. One of the very closest, क्योंकि दोनों बात तो एक ही कर रहे हैं, that is society. The only thing is one is more interested in sequencing, other is more in analyzing. Fine. So again, the subject matter is clear, that what sociology does, what history does. Your understanding where they're overlapping. In overlapping, please don't forget Karl Marx, don't forget Radcliffe Brown, and if you could remember Howard, well and good, and the evolutionary thinkers, how they took shelter into history. Then how they are different in their approaches, what history is more interested in sequencing, while sociology is more interested in generalization, for example, Toynbee, and then how the subaltern history has come. Fine. So this is about history and sociology. Making sense? Now, one of the frequently asked is history and sociology and political science, very frequently. Once or twice they have asked history, sociology also, and they have asked once also this sociological imagination and history, something like this. Another very frequently asked is sociology and social anthropology. They are sisters actually. They are sisters. So sociology and social anthropology. But another one is sociology and psychology. So पहले हम उसकी बात करेंगे. Then we'll talk about sociology and anthropology, which is very frequently asked. Sociology and anthropology. I'm deliberately doing sociology and anthropology in the last, so that we can connect it with the common sense also. Now, next is sociology and psychology. So when we talk about sociology and psychology as a subject, what is psychology? Psychology tries to understand how human mind, behavior, mental system, cognitive development, and all these things work. In fact, थोड़ा सा अगर हम history में जाएं, if we look into the history of psychology, this is very interesting. The fellow who established the department of psychology, his name was William Wundt. और देखिए वैसे इस कहानी से आपको बहुत लेना देना तो नहीं है, लेकिन मे बी यू कैन ट्रेस द लिंक. Durkheim used to give classes or tuitions to Wundt's son. And that's how Durkheim came to know that yes, it is possible to understand social phenomena in lab, in experiment manner. And that's why when Durkheim believed that we can design experiments in sociology also. So even the very emergence of sociology, the man who established the department of sociology, Durkheim, was fairly inspired by someone who established the department of psychology, William Wundt. William Wundt believed that human behaviors and the cognitive development of the human being, so human behavior, cognitive development of the human being, how we think, how we dream, even dream, how we dream, how our mental system work, all those things are studied in psychology. So psychology is scientific study of human behavior, mental system, how the cognitive development happens, and how we think, behave, and personality shapes. This is how we got psychology. Sociology to you know. So now, this is the subject matter of what is called sociology, psychology. And when William Wundt established the department, he was more interested into because you might have heard that famous experiment of Pavlov, and that is called classical conditioning. That a dog was there, and the food was given to the dog, and bell was rang. So every time when the dog was given food, he used to ring a bell. Next time, after 3-4 times, when the bell was rang, even without food, saliva came in his mouth, dog's mouth. This is what is called classical conditioning. So our behavior is something which is conditioned by a set of facts, even our dream. Sigmund Freud is a very renowned psychologist. He wrote a book called Interpretation of Dreams. आपके dreams originally देखा जाए तो that is catharsis, ventilation of all your desires. But only thing is कि dream is not having space and time. इसलिए ड्रीम में आपने कुछ कलकत्ता के बारे में सोचा होगा और कुछ मद्रास के बारे में सोचा होगा, दोनों साथ में आ सकता है ड्रीम में, because dream doesn't have time and space. You might have thought something of the past and something of the future that may come together in the dream. And dream, did you notice one thing? Dream में there is no starting point, no ending point. आपके ड्रीम्स बहुत कुछ बताते हैं कि आपके अंदर क्या चल रहा है. It's a very famous book, Interpretations of Dreams. So Sigmund Freud was another man who is considered to be a very prominent name in psychology. Most of the psychology book cover pages are dedicated to Sigmund Freud that way. So William Wundt established the department when he believed that human behavior, like natural sciences, जैसे बायो में आप पढ़ते हो, ऐसे human behavior can be studied scientifically through experimentation. कि ये किया तो ये impact आ रहा, ये किया तो ये impact किया in controlled fashion, clinical fashion and all, because everything has a pattern. Even Sigmund Freud believed कि we all are three. हम सब में, like I have something called very gregarious inside me. Gregarious is something very instinctual, very instinct based. So what if I was alone? What if nobody was there? What if I was on island? How was going to behave? That is id. And then there is superego. Superego is something which channelizes it, which tells me as per society what should I do, what shouldn't I do, and these kind of things. And there's an ongoing war between id and superego. And that's how my ego comes. That's how I look like to you. So maybe you said something and I don't feel good about it, but nice joke. When I'm doing this, something is suppressing inside me because that gregarious instinct doesn't go anywhere. It remains inside us. And whenever opportunity comes, it ventilates. It comes out. According to Sigmund Freud, most of the diseases, most of illness in the society, social evil, social deviance, all are the impact of what? This id coming out. Id coming out. That's why, did you notice one thing? Again, that's the beauty of sociology. Way back, Y Singh has written, Yogen Singh, मैं बात कर रहा हूँ 1980s, 90s की, he has written in his book, Crisis and Resilience, in India, sports will be more ruthless in future. कभी आपने देखा कि आपको क्या मजा आ रहा है, दो लोग लड़ रहे हैं? Why you are happy? You wanted to slap someone. That's why more civilized you're getting, more butcherous your heroes are getting. It's not surprise. More civilized you will be, your sports will be more ruthless. Kabaddi was well predicted by Yogen Singh in 1980s. कि WWE का इंडियन वर्जन जरूर आएगा फ्यूचर में. अगर इनलिस्टेड होता तो वाई सिंह वुड हैव बीन द बिगेस्ट बेनिफिशियरी. उसी समय इन्वेस्ट कर सकते थे किसी टीम में, क्योंकि ही वाज नोइंग इट कि WWE इज व्हाई फेमस बिकॉज मोर सिविलाइज्ड. जितना मैं क्लास में सिविलाइज्ड होना पड़ेगा, आई नीड सम पंचिंग बैग समवेयर. इफ नॉट, it will come into some kind of disease in me. Some kind of disease. That's why, I told you that more civilized they are, more workload they have. Look at their night culture. Hashtag Bangalore. So actually they work like donkeys in the day and they jump like monkeys in the night. Bangalore will not survive if they don't have these kind of things, the kind of stress they have. So id always ventils. Kahin bhi, everywhere. So in the offices, you know that your boss is saying something stupid, but you cannot, hey boss, oh my God, what an intelligent idea. No? And inside you are, so it's getting accumulated somewhere. And it needs to get ventilated. It ventilates in crowd. That's why civilized people behave differently when they go on holidays somewhere else. They completely behave differently. That's not a surprise. More civilized or more holiday packages and these things will increase. Because you need to ventilate. Sigmund Freud believed all your behavior is something guided by these things. So by looking into the psychoanalysis, you can understand all these kind of things, that how you behave and work and so and so. However, just opposite of it, Merton believed, no, it's not the individual. It's a society which has to be blamed for. In fact, in our syllabus, we have deviance and conformity. Then we'll talk about this again. Merton believed it is a society which is responsible. ये सोसाइटी में फैब्रिक था ना कि बॉस को नहीं बोल सकते थे. तो प्रॉब्लम किसकी, सोसाइटी की, इंडिविजुअल की? It was the problem of society where you made such arrangement. You made such arrangement that you cannot ventilate. And what if there were proper ways of ventilation? Perhaps you don't need that. That's why every society should have carnivals. What are those carnivals? If you watch carefully, ventilation, catharesis. So you almost 11 months you are supposed not to say anything to your elder members of the family, and then you got Lathamar Holi. You are given the freedom to do whatever you want. Look, this is way to can you know. All societies have. Every society has some other kind of carnival where they go crazy. You're allowed to do those notorious things. Notorious things. This way you ventilate yourself. So Merton found that sometime, and why anyone will be deviant if there are opportunities? Why anyone will be deviant if there are enough of opportunities? So that's why, you know, initially, if you see that what was considered to be subject matter of psychology, gradually we realize no, sociology has more important role to play. So while people like J.S. Mill, Sigmund Freud, they believed that you cannot understand human being without understanding their behavior and cognitive development. So you cannot understand society because society is multiple of human beings without understanding psychology. But then we got people like Merton and उससे पहले भी one fellow Mead. Mead ने जो कहा you know, that was in a way very decisive. Mead said, okay, fine. आप सोचते कैसे हो? How you think? By using words given by society. कभी ध्यान दे अपने से कैसे बात करते हैं? You are talking to yourself by using the words given by society. Exposure and the socialization pattern given by society. This is reference point for your mind. So how much you can think depends on the society you belong to. And that's why how socialization happens, how these symbols are created, these things are more important to understand cognitive development and human behavior than just thinking what is called id and such like things. And that's why Mead said every action is social action. Because end of the day, the way we think depends on the kind of language we are, the kind of exposure, the kind of symbols we are using in a society. So आप कभी देखो, आप जब सोचते हो, कभी अपने आप को देखना आप कैसे बात करते हो अपने आप से. You are talking as if you are talking to somebody else. And you are using the same code, same symbols given by society. And you always have a situational memory जो society से मिली होती है कि इस context में वहाँ ऐसा हुआ था तो ऐसा करना चाहिए and so and so. We all have situational memories. And that's why Mead believed that every action, therefore, is social action. So while people like Sigmund Freud believed if you don't understand the human behavior through psychology, and society is nothing but multiplicity of human behavior, how you will understand sociology? But on the contrary, Mead said no. If you want to understand psychology, you have to understand how socialization takes place. You have to understand that how those words are given, symbols are understood, and so and so. So this way, again, you can say sociology and psychology, they came closer, intersecting each other, but the basic difference remain that sociology is still generic, psychology is more clinical. That's why psychiatry, they also go with what is called medication at times. They believe they also have medication. So medication and these kind of things are there. They're more clinical and close to natural sciences. While sociology is more close to social sciences and is generic in its approach. Together they make subjects like what you can call as social psychology, where we try to understand what is social intelligence, emotional intelligence. In fact, these days we talk a lot about emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? How you should control your emotions in the given society. That's emotional intelligence. What is social intelligence? So all these things are now being studied in a subject called social psychology, and there's another kind of thing called community psychology, which is a new emerging discipline, which is in a way synthesis of the two. So this was about, again, sociology and psychology. Even for your significance, paper 4 talks about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence or social. Emotional intelligence hota kya hai? What is emotional intelligence? Who will answer? Managing your emotions means controlling your emotions. Let me give an example which Goldman has given. You might be referring to his book only. Goldman's book, Social Intelligence or Emotional Intelligence. He's the authority. Again, social psychology. He starts with this story. There's a girl, 3-4 years old, and her father is there. She's angry for some reason to the father. Father goes to the girl and says, Beta, are you angry? She's not saying anything. Okay, whatever the matter is, I love you. She said, don't talk to me. No matter what he was saying, I adore you, you are, my life, everything. That father is saying to that kid. She said, don't dare to talk to me. Interestingly, every time she wanted to listen what father is saying. This is emotional intelligence. That's how Goldman starts his conversation. Exactly वो बच्ची उस चीज को सुनना चाह रही थी, that acknowledgement. So what should be said, not what is apparently looking. Go one layer beneath and identify it. Which emotion is there dominating? Not one is saying what. उस समय कौन सा emotion dominate कर रहा है, and accordingly you should behave. That's how emotional intelligence is. Maybe someone is in deep pain there. अब वहां पे अगर आप ज्ञान दो कोई बात नहीं, हतो वा प्रापस्ति स्वर्गम, गीता ने वो काम नहीं करेगा. That's not. You need to understand. Maybe giving that anecdote कि पता है ऐसे situation में भी एक साथ के ऐसा हुआ था, he came out of it, and these kind of things. That may give them resilience. That's emotional intelligence. So you will read, don't worry. बहुत अच्छे से syllabus designed है आपका. I told you several times to you कि कम वक्तों ने कुछ नहीं छोड़ा है. It is everything in your syllabus of GS. So this is how we got when we talk about that what exactly is where social psychology, cognitive psychology is coming together. That's how we got sociology and psychology. Now, next is what is called, so time ho gaya. क्या करना है? Should we write this? नहीं. Chalo, let's call it a day today because obviously tomorrow we'll take 10-15 minutes for sociology, anthropology, and then sociology and common sense, and then I'll start with the thinkers, right? So that I told you they're the most important one. Let's do them first. Thank you, and hope the class was productive for you.